Welcome back for another episode of the Podcast Foundry.
The number one thing is transparency for me.
This is built on like a hell of a lot of trust to begin with.
And actually, I think that's quite healthy to be able to say, I'm not the best person for that job.
This is where things have kind of shifted because we're now really able to focus on the storytelling.
I'm glad to be working with you on this. I wouldn't do it with anyone else, respectfully.
All right, so welcome back for another episode of the Podcast Foundry.
Hello.
Hi, Kev.
You're right, Pri.
All good. Okay, so today we're going to be pulling back the curtain behind the Podcast Foundry, what it's like working as a creative team, how we make decisions, how we navigate difficult conversations when they're needed. Basically, kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, but operationally, as it were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, let's start off by just introducing you, Kev, a little bit. I know we've done like 3 episodes now. We've not actually introduced you.
Well, somewhat. I've talked a lot. So I'm guessing people have got to know me based on the fact they're listening. But yeah. Well, a bit about me.
Yeah.
So I would say I realised that I wanted to work in the creative spaces quite early on. Actually, even at the young age of like 11, 12, I was kind of messing around with mixing desks, etc. But I was much more technically creative or technical in the creative spaces than creative. And that's where I always saw my kind of passions lie. And that led me down a route of studying engineering and sound engineering and working in kind of music studio environments for an entertainment company and making music. But I always position myself as the person that helped creators achieve what they wanted to achieve. So that's where it started. And then, push came to shove and I started taking on photography and videography and learned from someone that I deem as a mentor, actually, that I around photography, but also business and how to operate business, especially direct to consumer and dealing with customers, which was interesting. And all the while I, had Saturday jobs like working at Car Phone Warehouse, which definitely taught me how to sell. And it's meant that I've kind of got this like multidisciplined approach to running the business. I wouldn't say that I've always been someone that wears many hats. That's why I think, starting a business like this and the businesses that I've had in the past have been doing reasonably well because you've got to be able to pick up any part of it and run with it.
How does Sorry, I know we weren't planning to go down this way, but how does Podcast Foundry and the business that we're building align with your background and your expertise?
I would deem myself as someone, as I said, like very tech forward. And obviously right now AI is a massive part of that world. But also automations and planning and workflow and all of the bits that mean that we can actually do this efficiently for clients at a value. Historically, I've run a digital marketing agency, a video production company, and the bottom line is those 2 things is fundamentally what a podcast is built up on, or the value proposition that we're providing as Podcast Foundry, is that we're taking recurring video content and converting that into tangible lead acquisition or brand awareness. And as a marketing agency and a digital marketing agency, the biggest thing for us was content, truly understanding the product, whether that's we specialized in the CBD space a lot, but we've got a few different sectors. And a lot of the time it was, what makes you stand apart? What content can you provide me, whether it's as the business owner or about the product, that I can then use as the USP and leverage to gain more attrition for that brand. And that's why, not that long ago, we talked about podcasting and how valuable it is as a content generator. And why, fundamentally, I think Podcast Foundry got established is the vision is always about, and I would probably bet that most marketing companies or marketing agencies, especially the creative side that are doing brand overhauls, want content. Content is king at the moment. There's no denying that. That is the strongest way to get to market. as it stands, but it's slowly transitioning from not just content, but what content builds, which is community. If we can build a community, it's easy to sell. That's why when Logan Paul turns around and goes, I'm making an energy drink, they're the fastest growing energy drink, have been signed by Arsenal, Barcelona as the hydration partner. It's 3 years later. Like, compare that to a Lucozade. Like, they're still fighting because they don't have presence of community. People know what its value is. So that's why, I guess, there was a synergy from what I used to do to now, is that I think about it from its value beyond a podcast.
Of course.
And maybe, you know, why we are where we are today.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And why we are where we are today, let's talk about that a little bit, because we met like 5 years ago now.
Yeah, you sent me an anniversary card. I'm not going to lie. My wife got really jealous. And she's like, why does he send you an anniversary card? Because this guy, yeah, it's been 5 years since we first met.
5 years. I DM'd you on Instagram.
We spoke, isn't it? I was like, I need help to edit some video content for a concert that we shot. And I think you picked that up, right? And we met in a car park of a pub.
Yeah.
This was somewhat COVID times, and it was like social distancing. So I'm pretty sure I handed you the drive, but officially I left it on the bonnet, and then you picked it up, and we never touched. That sounded weird. Pause.
Not on the first date, Kev. Not on the first date.
But yeah, that's how we met, and then from that point, it was. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, but at the time I felt like you were still trying to understand what you could do.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
how you could fit into that space, and video was new to you. And I was by no means the expert, but I had, I guess, the business acumen to be bringing in some level of work. And I always tried to focus on work that was interesting, as opposed to, look, we could have quite easily gone down the rabbit hole of like corporate headshot work or corporate video work. But yes, it paid, but it was never entertaining.
Yeah.
So, you know, we kind of landed into this space of like music and concerts, etc., which kind of felt right.
I think the stuff we were interested in aligned very well.
There's many times when we've talked about stuff and gone, that's me.
Yeah.
And that's worrying. Like, I think there's so many things where we're like, oh, we're the same person.
We had the same car.
We had the same car. Although I didn't own that car. That was my brother's car. We won't talk about that. As far as everyone else is concerned, it was my car. But
we worked on many projects where we aligned really well, especially like the documentary style of storytelling.
Yeah.
And
I think creatively we had very similar ideas about the right way to do something.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's not to say that we didn't have times when we disagreed. It was more that a lot of the time, let's put it into perspective. If we were filming a concert, I knew that I could lock down because I came from a kind of stage and technical side, right? Like I did work overseas as a stage manager and a technical manager and like a technician. So I understood that well. So to like apply video and understand where to be and when to be was easy for me. Whereas you came from the perspective of bringing the story to life. So it was so easy to go, Pri, just look after the behind the scenes interview doc style stuff that is actually, and ironically, and I'm not afraid to say it, was much more qualitative than what we were doing by filming the concert. And yet you were the cheaper spend for a client. Like, it was the bolt on, even though it was the one that should have been the primary.
Yeah.
But that's where you fit. And I guess we knew where our kind of value add was.
Yeah.
And as long as we could stick to those lanes and not get in each other's way, we were okay. We would get a good result from that.
Definitely. And I think, obviously, bringing it back to our Podcast Foundry, this is where things have kind of shifted because we're now really able to focus on the storytelling. Rather than just being, just capturing the content now.
Yeah. But I still think that there's a level of value that we add in certain scenarios. So even if we just talk about production, like, I am probably sickeningly about the process. Like, I always think, how do we make this faster? How do we make this more efficient?
Yeah.
And you'll be turning around going, I don't care about it. can we just get on with doing it? / creatively, you drive it more, right? Like you want to ensure that the story is told correctly, and that we're truly understanding that side of it. Mm-hmm. So for me, like we, as much as we are more aligned and our focus is on that, we still know where each of us needs to land. Definitely. And I think that, like, as a creative team goes, probably it's not about clear boundaries, because I know you can do what I do and you know the same, right? Like there's no like animosity in terms of stepping on toes, no offense in that. But we're also aware that to be able to say, I know you'll do that better.
Yeah, for sure.
And actually I think that's quite healthy to be able to say, I'm not the best person for that job.
And let's just take our processes within Podcast Foundry at the moment, because like obviously you're really focusing on AI and how we can streamline our own processes, but also those for our clients. Hands down, you're better than that. Barrett, you're the best person.
Not to dig you a hole, but I feel like you're a toddler in water right there, right? Like you literally don't know where to start. Yeah. Every time I show you something, I'm like, all right, so I've taken this and done this and it's achieved that. And honestly, it's not that complicated.
Yeah, but I think you'd be surprised at how many other people would feel how I feel when I see you put this together. Like for you, it's like second nature. It's like,
I have this revelation on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Where I'm deep in it, like in terms of understanding and following and trying to get to grips with the future, or what the future could be. And I do stuff and then I show it to one person and they're like, how is that even possible? Like, it's this concept of true complexity to people, whereas to me, it's just a complicated system, right? Like, there's people in the world that don't understand how water comes out of our taps, right? But to some people, to a select few, they know every step of the way to get water to that tap. And that kind of, somewhat humbling and grounding to go, actually, I do know something of value. Yeah. Like I'm not just winging it through. Like, so I am very much focused on that and process. And it's not just AI, but just general business processing.
Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of the like back-end contracts, paperwork, website maintenance, like all of the kind of, I'd say, boring jobs. Even like literally this week we've had to upgrade our Google account. And I was like, oh, we're running out of space.
Well, we downgraded first.
We were trying to save some money.
Yeah.
And then we realised that 2 weeks later that money saving was pointless.
Yeah, we need the space.
We did save. We saved £14 over that 2 weeks. Thanks. But yeah, as in things like that is like where my kind of basic need, like requirements are. But I think that also it works both ways, because I know it sounds ridiculous, but that Google conversation, I just happened to be on the phone with Pri at the time and I went, oh, we need to do this. And it was a conversation. It wasn't a, I've done this, deal with it. It's a, we need to do this. Are you happy? I know it's a small one, but there's a few of those that have happened recently where we've had to like boil down decision making, which has been an interesting one. And I would argue that a lot of that is based on our level of communication and like how we focus, or how, okay, two things. One, we're bad at communicating because our phone calls last way too long. But two is that we're not afraid. Look, we have a personal friendship as well as a business relationship. Well, beyond that, Pri is my daughter's godparent. Like, as in, I feel that strongly about him being part of her life that I did that, right? Like, that was, for me, that was important. So it's not just a business thing. It's not just black and white. We have, let's say, our lives touch in so many places that knowing when to talk about what is important. Yeah. But also having the confidence to be able to go, okay, serious conversation, we need to talk about X, or we're starting this new product, these are the margins, how does that work? Like, and they're serious conversations, but that could be sprinkled with, I got this new toy, right? Like, I've just finished gardening, and it looks amazing. So as in, we're very good at flowing and being, I would even say that the number one thing is transparency for me, is that I will say it as I see it, and 100% of the time, if you don't like it, I understand and we can converse about it, but it has to be true.
Yeah.
Like the minute any partnership, creative or otherwise, does not have that, then I think that you're on a rocky road. That doesn't mean that it can't work. I just feel like, especially when we work this closely together.
Yeah. But I think this is built on like a hell of a lot of trust to begin with.
Yeah.
So there's like, even though we always talk about things, I'm very, very happy for you to make decisions and just go along with it, knowing I have full trust in the fact that you're doing the right thing for the business and for us.
Yeah.
So there's never that question, but we're very good at communicating and just be like, this is what we're doing. What do you think?
Yeah.
And we're not afraid to have those conversations where it's like, where we don't agree.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say in that scenario though, like, and a lot of the time it's creative. We recently, like, obviously we're doing this podcast and we've built the website, we've built our brand, we've built all of the things that establish us to a base level. And some of the times it's been one of us running off with it and doing a job and then bringing it back. And that's been like a moment of reflection. And at no point have either of us got defensive about criticisms against what we've created.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. There's trust in that, but there's also times when we've gone, I don't agree with you, although you've thought about it, you've committed it. What's the worst that could happen? And beyond that, at some point, you've got to agree to disagree and let it go and move on.
Yeah.
Because if we just dwindle on this same, what font should we use as an example, we'd be there forever and get nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's trust, but it's also even trusting yourself to go, I've got this one. Like, just for once, back me. And I appreciate you don't agree, but I think this is right.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
And also, I think just knowing that you can iterate anyway at any point.
Yeah,
So
especially in today's day and age.
Exactly, yeah. So it's just knowing that, because I think everyone always waits to have perfect before they go ahead and go do something. And sometimes you've fallen into that where you're like, oh, we need this process. We're like, Kev, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
We don't need...
Yeah, that works both ways, thanks.
Yeah.
No, because I think that you are somewhat more of a perfectionist when it comes to edit. Right?
100%, yeah.
Like, I'm of the mindset, which is, especially when I was working in the studio and I was working for an entertainment company, and they did things like TUI, Park Resorts, Haven, all of the audio that you heard on entertainment, most of it came through our studio.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking like the stage shows in the evening and the kids clubs and all that stuff. So I spent a lot of time in that world creating with a musical director, with performers, with creative direction from like the creative team, but I was the engineer. And we get to the point where everything was recorded and then I had a period of time, and normally we'd allocate a week for me to mix down. And what did I do first? I created a system, would you believe, to make that the most efficient way possible. But what I also realized is that I could get 90% of the way there in the first day. And the other 4 days, I would basically only gain 2 or 3%. Now, there is a time for perfection, but when you're working on content that is on such a fast cycle that only lasts for 4 to 6 weeks at most, in like the ether, it will live indefinitely, but I'm saying like present, why would we spend that much time getting the extra 5 or 10%? And that's my mindset. And you're the opposite, I would say, which is no, but I want it to be perfect because it is going to live indefinitely. But that's a balance, right? Like there's a point of no, like, it's not worth it, right? The limited returns, right? So that's, I guess, where we will always disagree. Fundamentally, it's like, stop, it's good enough, get it out. Versus, no, I want more time.
How are we making that work with our clients currently? Because do you see that being a problem with...
No. Look, there is a reason why Hollywood spends millions versus independent filmmakers that spend tens or 20s £1,000, right? Is that they do try and go for the perfect in Hollywood, right? But look at the price variance.
Yeah.
If you want perfect, you got to pay for it. In time or in money. We either resource more or we work it longer. But one of the big fundamentals, especially in podcasting, but just generally in content, is consistency of new content. Not it being perfect. Especially now, because on my phone, I can see 10,000 pieces of content in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They don't live in my brain that long to care about the quality of it. Like, me and you don't talk about content we've seen because it would probably, more 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 where we go, wow, that was shot beautifully. But most of the time it's, this is hilarious. Or, did you see that thing? Because the content was good, not the quality of how it's captured.
Yeah.
That's where I see the disparity.
Yeah. I think that's the point, actually. Like, if we ever pick up on something, it's always about the way it was shot. Like, how, not necessarily how it looks or anything like that, but the storyline or the quality of the content, rather than, oh, look at how beautiful this framing is.
Yeah.
So,
as in, look, that's not to say that we had this conversation in one of the other episodes in terms of quality is important, but content always needs to come first. And I think that's actually how we've worked it to where we are now. So us being efficient in edit is not devaluing the content. It's getting more content out more efficiently.
Yeah.
And therefore, if your content's good, we get more of it out, and that will propel, right? Like, that will grow on its own.
So what does our, like, obviously I know the answer, but I'm asking the question. But what does our, like, process, let's talk about our edit process a little bit now. Like, what does it look like now, currently, compared to what it was like before?
Well, you're the one that's been doing the edit, so why don't you tell me?
That's a good point. It's fast.
Yeah.
We could do things fast. And I think that's massive. AI's helped a lot.
Yeah,
for sure. So we've been working together for a long time now, for many years, obviously, even before we started Podcast Foundry.
Yeah.
What have you learned about working together?
I think the biggest thing we have is a joint vision. And I don't know how long that will last. But we've done multiple things together at different points of both of our journeys in terms of learning and experience. And we've kind of been through that process together. But right now, we're very locked into the same idea. And that's lovely. But I don't imagine a time where that won't split and, like, we'll do this a little bit. But I'm confident, actually, that because of the history we've had, that's not an issue. It's like when we look at a potential client and what they need, we will have different ideas. But actually, it's something that we, when you did the podcast with Sanjeev Bhaskar and what was the doctor's name? Dr. Suk.
Yeah.
Like, he said it, right? Like, 2 brains are better than 1. And when we're doing things like edits and it's very solo. Like, we don't work as a team in the sense of on an edit.
Yeah.
We'll offer it up for review, like comments, opinions, suggestions, but it's still one person doing it. So it's really interesting that you've got to go from that space to the teamy, like, logic, right? Like, and jump in and out. But we do it a lot. Like, when we're on set, we're shooting together, there is a level of, we both can see what each other are doing. We can both do both things and then go, no, but you got that, I got this. And it's very easy to work that out. So I think for me, the learning is like allowing people the space to get on with stuff. Because when you're in an edit, like, especially when we were doing, like, the wedding work, effectively my name was on it, right? So there was a point when I'd receive things back from you and other editors and shooters and be like, I need to change X, Y, and Z because it was my name on it. And now it's not my name on it. It's our name on it. So I've had to let some of that go, which is a good thing, though. Like, I'm saying, like, I know you can handle X, Y, and Z. I don't need to think about it. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think, so before I'm like, when we were starting, so let's just stay lean. Just stay lean and just get it out there. And you were very much process driven on things. And I think now I'm seeing the value in having those in place, because like this has gone crazy really fast, this whole Podcast Foundry, and actually having those processes in place has allowed it to like keep going rather than
it doesn't feel like one rock's gonna sink the ship, as it were.
Exactly. Yeah. So not that I didn't have trust in what you were doing at all. That wasn't the question. It was always
you did
about,
question it though, because you were like, what value does this have now?
Exactly that. Yeah. And it was more about like, in my head I was like, look, we can do a production with our eyes closed. Like there's nothing that we need to put in place. Let's just get out.
The irony was that you already were doing podcasts.
Exactly.
We both done podcasts with different people.
Yeah.
And from a qualitative standpoint, always hit the mark. So it wasn't a question of the ability to do.
Yeah.
It was more a question of how do we do it at scale? And that's why my brain went to, we need processes and systems.
Yeah.
And like, this is coming from a history of businesses, right? Like every business that I have set, and whether it's as a freelancer or as like with partnerships that I've set up, I have learned along the way about establishing the baseline requirement. So right now, as an example, if someone lands on our website, yes, they can email us, but they can also book in a call with us automatically that books in a time available for both of us, right? Or they can fill out a form that goes to a data set that basically gets looked after, as opposed to us receiving some random email from some random, like, do you know what I mean? With just like name X, email Y, and some random text field that they can write whatever they want in, which is just effort and energy that we don't need to spend. Like, so yes, I am but it's come from a history of that. Like, it's come from a history of establishing business and learning the hard way about how to manage it. And we are still small, but considering 2 months ago this didn't exist, to where we are now, where we've effectively got 3 active clients without even trying, and with the intention of growing exponentially. I've already started thinking about what does it look like when we're recruiting, and how do those teams get broken down? And it's a thought that's going through my head now.
See, when we were having the conversation like a couple of weeks ago about that, it almost felt too early for me. But now, like, I'm like, okay, we've got all the processes in place. This can scale very quickly, and we're actually ready. Like, we're actually in a place where we could. And
Don't
we have
get me
the
wrong,
team available.
We're gonna hit some bumps, man.
Of course, of course. That's
a definitive. But as in, I feel we had to do it that way. And maybe, like, in the same vein, like, that's a learning that we've both had in this process. To like understand that if we don't do it this way, then we're gonna have to do it at some point. But if we've got 10 clients on roster with all of their work going on, where's the time? And even when, like, I was financial modeling, was it 2 weeks ago, and you're like, okay, it's done now. I'm like, no, it's not done. Because this if we don't see this now, we can't actively decision make about where things are getting spent. And that's all it was. But it's just a respective understanding, isn't it? It's like, there's times when I look at you and go, why do you do it that way? And you explain, I'm like, okay. I get it now.
Cool. Okay. So you've mentioned obviously all these processes that we've already got in place, and we've been thinking about scaling almost already. Talk to me about how you envisage that growth then.
I mean, we've grown in the sense of, so we've brought in someone else who specialises in non-profits, and we'll talk about non-profits in another episode, because it's a big part of our vision and planning. But there has been a level of like understanding about how we fit in a broader team concept, right? So even to the extent that as we grow, and this is more me kind of spitballing an idea, but as we grow, we're gonna have to bring in specialty resourcing. So instead of me and you going to shoot, like, we can send a shooter. Now we've got great shooters that we work with all the time. We know that we can work with them. We set them a clear brief. We set them a directive. But our brief comes in like a clear document, right? This time. These are the people. These are the concepts. Here's all the scripts. They get like a deck. Go. And I do, and, you know, I'm kind of foreseeing the future about how we split that workload. And I think it's naturally happened where it's like you've taken on much more of the creative direction, kind of creative world that we have to work in. And I've taken on a lot more of the operational world that we work in. And I think if we continue that kind of and work that way, there's going to be a point where we need like business resourcing, right?
Yeah.
Like right now I'll deal with finance, but it's a faff. Like, and I'm blessed. I've got family members that might be accountants that might just deal with it. But it might be a point where we have to look at business resourcing. And that's a world I've never needed to touch because the businesses have never scaled to the point where I think this could. And that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've already said that by the end of this year, we want 10 recurring clients. I'll put that publicly, happily, because that's what we want. Yep. So if you want to be one of those 10, sign up us now, because they are going. They're flying. And I think the biggest surprise for both of us was that. Is especially with any of these ideas we've come up with and business we run in the past, we've known its value within reason, but it's been relatively competitive or a busy space. Podcasting for businesses is not so. And it always begs the question, is it because people don't want it or is it because it's new? And right now it's relatively new. There's other people that do it.
Yeah.
100%. But actually, I think what makes us different is that we come at it because it's us two, right? It's you do the creative side and I do the ops business automation side. But and bringing like even my old team that still runs as a digital marketing agency, it's like bringing them into that journey and saying, how do we best produce content for this business to achieve this goal? We're getting direction from a marketing angle, we're getting brand ops, etc. direction, and then a creative input. And that kind of team group core can only build good quality content of value.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree with you 100%.
I don't know what else to say.
Spot on. No, I think we'll leave it there for this episode. Unless there's anything else you want to cover.
No.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
You're just so good at this stuff, man.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be working with you on this. I wouldn't do it with anyone else.
Same, yeah.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
And I know there's a few people that watch and are good friends of both of ours that are definitely on this journey with us. 100%.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't be where we are without what they've done to help us get to this point. And I hope we get to a point that we can scale our team with those same people, knowing how valuable they will be to us in the future. Yeah.
It's not like this is the first time. Like even when I first met you and you were building the businesses that you were working with, like you've always brought everyone along with you. And that's why we've aligned very much on that.
Yeah.
Like anytime that you can, you're not afraid to like bring in people who specialize in a certain area. Like it's bringing the best people to get the job done to the highest standard.
Yeah. 100%.
And I see the same. This is how Podcast Foundry will grow. And
then suddenly we're going to have to start recruiting. Yeah. And that is a world that I'm actually scared of.
Yeah.
But hopefully, people get to know us well enough to understand that we're pretty chill.
Yeah.
And like, whatever's best for the client, whatever's best for our outcomes, done efficiently. That's what we look for.
Yeah.
And whether that's creatively or even in a business role, like everyone has value to add, and hopefully we can take everyone on that journey.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Well, I need another coffee, so let's leave it there, Kev.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you everyone for watching. It's been another episode for the Podcast Foundry. Of course, please do follow us, like us, subscribe to us, and all those other things, because we're going to keep doing this. One of our number one philosophies is continuous content generation. So even if you're sick of us already, it's still coming for more. Anyway, have a good day.
Peace.